getting back to collecting the data so we can get to that point. Here, I started out just as a sample doing the age bit, right? So if we're looking at this, just looking at what they're asking for, they're looking for the number of people. It looks like the number and also the percentage of the population. I'm not sure why they just have VT here because we've got different things down here. But we are looking at kind of an age distribution. They've given us some cutoffs that they're interested in, right? So 0 to 17, fine, 18 to 25. That makes sense. 0 to 17 is going to be probably in our kids' age. Maybe we might want to break this down a little bit further because we do have some products for kids, but I'm sure there's a kind of a lower age limit there. I don't think we're doing stuff for like 3-year-olds. So we might want to break this down a little bit further. But this is fine. I mean, this is kind of a young adult, working age, kind of a older parents and then retired type of thing going on here, which is fine. What they've given us is the source. So this is a lot of the stuff that you can see is from the census. There's a few other places that I haven't looked, that we haven't looked yet. And there's a couple of blanks, so we're gonna have to figure out where these things are. So we'll get to that eventually. So the idea was to do as much as we can fairly quickly, and then move on to the harder stuff after that. So if I focus in on here, what we've got here, this is from the source, from the census. Have you guys looked into the census site at all by any chance? So they used to have this thing called American Fact Finder, which apparently has been decommissioned, and it's moved to this thing. So that's fine. Let's look at that. And these are the census locations. So these are different table descriptions for where these things are. So Dobby's done a little bit of the research for us already here. So I'm going to go ahead and limit this to what I'm looking at. So this is, have you used these like filters before? Is that something that's familiar with you? These little arrows up here. So I'm going to go ahead and just look at the age here. This is all I'm looking at. Right, so this is what I'm looking at here. It's all in one location, which is nice. It looks like they're looking for a data range of 10 years or whatever we can find, fine. And then we've got these different subsegments here, right? So we're looking for the entire USA, then Vermont, Chittenden County, BMA. BMA is Burlington metropolitan area. Right? It's a census statistical area, and then Burlington and Winooski, the two cities. All right, so we're starting off with this, which is just going to be the USA, and we'll see where else this is here. And if we're looking at a 10-year data range for different numbers and percentages of age distribution, you can start picturing what that chart might be looking like in your head already, right? So you can see sort of a timeline on the bottom, and then there's going to be some y-axis. It could be a number, it could be a percentage, right? And these different data ranges, you can see them kind of going up and down. You could potentially see like a bar chart that shows you the different percentage of these different things over time, in different bars. So you start getting a sense in your head of what this thing might look like, and that gives you an idea of what the data array is going to be looking like to put into a chart like that. So I started thinking about that, right? So this is what I was putting together here in terms of age. This I started looking at. We started off with this age range number here. The reason why it looks like that is because this is the way it's showing up in the census statistics, and I'll show you how that's working. And then these are actual numbers I got off of the census data, 2010, 2011, 2012, and this is going to go on until 2019 and see if we can 2020. And these numbers here, just by looking at them, it looks like they're percentages. There's a total population here for the United States, and it looks like these are percentages. And sometimes you'll find this as just a number, doesn't really tell you what it is. But if you add this all up, sorry, let me start from the bottom. If you add this all up from top to bottom, you'll see that it's 99.9, basically 100%. And that gives you some confidence that, yeah, okay, I am dealing with percentages here. So another sum of 100. And so at some point, what we'll do is we'll take these percentages, multiply it by the total population, and that'll give us the actual numbers for each of these things. And you also see that the ranges here are actually tighter than the ranges we were looking for. So at some point, we're going to need to combine some of these things. That's fine. But this is what we're getting out of the census. But this is actually not what it looks like, what the census data looks like. So to get it into this form, that's the thing that I want to take you through today. So starting from the beginning, If we go to, let's just go ahead and go to the census data here. All right, so there's our census, right? What we can do is just put the table that we're looking for here. All right, so that's easy enough. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to view all tables. Okay, great. And now this is telling me I've got years 2018, 17, all the way down to 2020, right? That's what I had. And I'm going to go ahead and download the same thing so I can work on it. The age and sex, download selected, years, all of that, right? I want 1 year. I don't need the 5 year. I want it all. CSV files, metadata. Okay, I'm going to get it in CSV and then go ahead and download. Right, and there we go. Okay, and download now. All right, so now this is coming in as a zip file. Right, if I open this up here, right, you'll see this is where they are. And so now you got to do a little bit of deciphering, figure out what's going on here, right? So that here you've got the data with overlays, right? Data with overlays, and then you got metadata, and you've got some kind of text file over here. You can start looking at these things and see what it is. Over here, you're looking at, okay, here you see the year, it's 2010, 2011, 2012, and so on. I did 2010 and 11 and 12, so let's go to 2013. I'm going to open this up, which is the data with the overlays. Ah, there it is. Okay. Just delayed reaction. So this is what it's looking like coming straight out of the census, right? Which is a bit of a mess, as you can see. So it's all in like these 3 rows, and it's going on for like 1 million columns over here, right? Very kind of unwieldy and hard to tell what's happening. So the first thing that that I wanted to do was just take all of this stuff and transpose it. So I'm copying this and then putting it in a different form, so it just makes it easier to read. I'm going to go down here, right click, right? Here's the paste options. I'm going to use this, which is the transpose, right? And if I transpose that, all the columns have turned into rows, and the rows have turned into columns, and it makes it a lot easier to look at. So I'm going to get rid of this for now. So I have to look at it. Then I'm going to expand this, right? See what the whole thing looks like, right? And there we go, right? So now we've got just 3 columns here. There's some kind of code going on over here. If you look in here, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? So there's a total estimate, total population, a bunch of different delineators here, and then here's your data, which is the whatever number it is, right? So what I'm going to do, first of all, is trying to, again, make sense of all of this. It's hard to kind of read what's happening here. And what you can see is that there's actually multiple fields that are put in here. Well, it would be nice if we can separate these fields out, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So first of all, what I like to do is when you have a table that you're working with, you want to make sure that it's what we call a flat file. So it's just columns and rows with 1 column heading. Here you've got these 2 column headings going on. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to call this right now this. I'm going to delete that, right? So I'll call this an ID for now, and I'm going to call this a value, right? Because that's what the value is down here. There's nothing here, so I'm going to get rid of that, whatever that is. Right? There's no value over there. And now I want to see if I can make sense of what's happening here. If you look down, you'll see that there's 215 items here, so we certainly don't need all of that. And we need to find some easy way to sort out what's going on here. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these things out and take this column and insert it in here so I can get this column at the end. And then what I can do is highlight this column. If I go up to data here, there's a nifty little thing called text to columns, right? Which what that'll allow you to do is separate these things out, right? So I'm going to go ahead and separate these things out and go to text to columns here. And what it's asking me is how the data is organized, whether it's delimited by some character, which it is. You can see these exclamation points in between the, are they exclamation points? I can't even tell. Hold on, let me take a quick look at what they are. Yeah, I think so. They look like exclamation points, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy those just in case, because my eyes aren't all that great. So go over here back to the text columns, right? This is, it's asking whether my field names here are delimited by some character or they're fixed with. It is delimited, so characters, right? So we're going to go next here. Now it's asking us what the delimiters are, right? It's a default a tab. Ours is 2 exclamation points. So we're going to go to other, right? And I'll just paste those 2 exclamation points in there. Oops, that's working. Exclamation. No, they're going to only put 1. Fine. So only 1 exclamation point is working there. So you can see what's happened. It's separating that column out, right, into separate columns based on the exclamation point that we put in there. So you put next and finished, right, and there they are. And this is all separated out for you. And now we can think about this separately. Now, one thing that you see here, this is where we get some of those spaces actually, when you separate these columns out, because sometimes there's spaces in between, and that'll mess you up. Now, actually, let me go back one. You know, we were talking before about how we don't want to lose the original data. So if you want to keep the original data, then just copy this thing over, right? Insert copy cells, and we do our text to columns on this one instead. Okay, and finish, right? And so we've got the original, and here's what we're working on. Now you see there's a couple of space columns in between, just because between the 2 exclamation points there was nothing, and so it just made a space column for the nothing. I want to make sure real quick that there's nothing here. So if I just go down to the end, you'll see it goes down to the end of the table. So there's nothing there, and I can get rid of it. Right, and delete that. Same here. Make sure that there's nothing there. Good, it's not there, and we can get rid of it. Delete there, right? And same here. Nothing there. Okay, good. We can delete that. Okay, and so good. So now we've got our fields. This looks like it's the age range. So I'm going to put that there. Right. This is something else. Let me just put some numbers here, some letters here for now, because I don't really know what to call these for the moment. Just call this A. What's happening? Where'd it go? Just going to call this A, B, C, and D for the moment. Now, one thing that you notice when we're downloading this is on a CSV file, right? The thing about the CSV file is that it's a limited file. So if we're doing, you know, more tabs or anything like that, if we save it as a CSV file, it's all going to go away. So I like to kind of save it real quickly. Save as a it's in the OCU. I want to save this as an Excel file, just so we don't lose any of that, and also so we don't lose the original. I'm going to rename this. This is mid-20 summer OCU pitch, right? And what are we looking at here? This is census age data 20612.1B, and good. All right, so there we go. Now we're ready with this. Okay, so now the first couple of things I like to do with an arrange like this is, number 1, put the filter on it, and number 2, when you have a long list like that, view it with the top row frozen, right? So that when I go down, I can still see what's happening up here. I'm going to go ahead and bold that so it's easier to see. All right, good. Okay, and so now here's what I got. So once I do that, then when I look through to kind of get a sense of what's happening here, I can just look through there and says, what do I have here? I got male, female, total. Okay, here we've got estimates and margins of error. Okay, and then here we've got age, percentage, categories, summary categories, and the total population. So the other ones are fairly straightforward. I'm not sure what these things are, so I can look at it sort of one at a time. If I look at the age, okay, these look like the ages, the ranges that we're looking for. There's a sort of both an estimate and a margin of error here. We don't really need the margin of error for now, so I'll probably get rid of that back here and clear that to sort this first before I blank some of these things out. So we're only looking at estimates. We're not looking at margins of error. There's totals. We're not going to be looking at male or female for the moment, but it's good to know that it's there if we want to do a sex breakdown at some point, right? So I'll sort that and get rid of the females and the males. We'll only look at the total. Okay, now we're getting closer to what we're looking for. You've got a total population. The values right there. Okay, great. And now we've got these different things that we're looking at. So age we looked at, percent imputed. What is that? Well, okay, no, that's not going to be useful. All right, so we don't need that. Selected age categories, right? What do we have there? Okay, so they've compiled this, but this isn't actually compiled in the ranges that we want, so I don't think that's going to be all that useful. So let's look at what else we have. Summary indicators. No, that's a bunch of ratios. We don't really need that. So really, what we need is total population and age are the only two things that we're going to be needing here. And here they are, right? So now that we've got that, shrink this down a little bit so we can see it, right? So there's not really that much, right? That's all we've got here. And what we need is just the age range and the value. So I'm going to move the value to the end again because that's just easier to deal with. To do that, we clear it, take the value. Actually, what I'm going to do is do it this way. I'm going to copy all of this, cut it, and put it in here. All right, so there we go. And now we'll go back and say, all right, what is the total, right? And the estimate only, right? And the age and the total population, right? There it is. I'm going to sort it by this A column here, right? Just to keep it consistent. And there it is. So this is what we need. This is what is it, 2013, right? And these are the numbers that we're looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste this, right? Take this entire thing here, just for the moment. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my other. Go to my census age data. This to 2010, 2012, 2011. And then what I'm doing here is putting the 2013 there, just so I have the whole thing in one place. This is actually, I'll go back here. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to take the entire thing here just in case I want to use that for something else. I'm just going to put that in here. Right. So there's our whole name of this 2013. Okay. And then do the same thing here. Put this up, data and filter. Right, and the same sorts that we did before, total only, right, and no margin of error here, and age and total population. Okay, back to what we need. All right, so this is everything that we're looking for. I'm going to just take this bit here, right, and then copy it and put it into the column that we were trying to make in the wish list, which is the age table here, right? So 10, 11, 12, I want to put 13 here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now, the thing I want to make sure of is when I do this, that this is that these rows are lining up, right? So you could just eyeball it and make sure that you got this right. The reason I put this in here is so that you didn't have to do all of this stuff again. You know, those breakdowns that I was doing, I just did that to see what the cables, to see what the columns are saying, but I can check to make sure that these columns are the same by doing this equals function there. So that's true, that's the same. Go down here. Whoops, that is not. I can go up here. All right, that's all true. The one that's false is here, and it's just because I truncated this to total pop instead of that. So what I can do is I can take this and put it over here, right? And then that'll be that. So once I know that all of this is exactly the same, I can basically get rid of all of these columns, right, and delete, and now I've got 2013, right? Now you don't have to go through all of that. The first, you know, it's just to sort out, you know, what's going on in these field names here. So when we go on to, let's say 2014, which is going to be the next one here, right there, open that one up. Okay, I'm going to do the same little rigmarole there. Going back to here, I'm going to do 2014. I'm just going to do the transposition right here. Right, transpose that. And instead of going through all that rigmarole, I know I don't need this row here. I'm going to use that, right? So I'm just going to go take this and then filter and set these panes to the top row, right? And there, instead of doing all that text to columns and the rest of it, I can just work at it right here. So I can get rid of the select all. I know what I'm going to need is the total. Right? It's going to be down here. Total, right? It's going to be total estimate age, right? Those are the only things I'm looking for, and I can just pop those. That's a bunch of them. Total estimate age, that's it. And there's also the total population somewhere that we're looking for, right? So margin of error, what was that? Total estimate, total population. All right, great. That's what I wanted. So boom, that's it, right? And now it's very easy. I'm just going to take this bit here. That's the piece that I need. Go to my other one here and paste, right? Check my labels. Oops, what's happening here? Ah, see, the total population's down here. It didn't do it. I didn't sort this. So let me sort that quickly. Boom. All right, so now that's true. All right, let me go down here, make sure that's okay. All right, that's all right. Then I can get rid of this. And now I'm at 2014. So I'm going to keep on doing this until it gets 2019, and we can then start doing some things here, going back and saying, okay, what do we want? We wanted 0 to 17. So if I wanted 0 to 17 here in the age table, set my freeze panes. Okay. If I wanted 0 to 17, 0 to 17, right, then that's going to be equal to under 5 years plus, what else, right? 5 to 10, 5 to 9, plus 10 to 14, plus 15 to 19. So we don't quite have 17. We're going to wind up with age 0 to 19, right? That's fine. 19, that's fine. And so on. The next one that we wanted was, what do we want here? 18 to 25. Age, let's say 20 to 25. That's what we're going to want, and that's going to be equal to, so 20 to 24 is what we've got. Right, that's it. So this is going to be 20 to 24. So close enough, right? So we'll modify it based on what we have, and then we can do this and just take it over, right, and do the rest of it. Okay, and then at some point, if we want to do the populations, it's easy enough. What we want to, these are percentages, as we're saying, right? So it would just be, let's say we're doing this in percent, in numbers. It's going to be that number times the entire population divided by 100, because it's that way. And what I'll do is we'll keep this as a we'll anchor that, right, on the row 20, because we're always going to be using the same row for the population. We're just going to be we're going to be changing around the columns. So we put the little $sign in front of the 20 to show that that's anchored, and the B is going to be changing. Okay, and so there's that. Okay, same thing. Actually, if we do this, that's not going to work, because it's going to wind up in the same place. No, it's good. Okay, so that'll work. Right here, let's format that to make it easier to look at. Okay, right. So 83 and 21. Okay, then we just take that and move it over. Right, and then we've got that for everything. Right. So once you've got it set up, right, it's a lot easier to kind of put it all together. And then eventually what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to look at it in some kind of graphical format, right? And we'll see something that kind of looks like this, right? So not a lot changing, not a lot changing. Here's 1924. This we're gonna put the year numbers on here eventually. But you can basically kind of carry it all the way forward to see what your visualization is going to look like even as you're doing it. So if you need to make some adjustments earlier on so your visualization looks okay later on, then you can go ahead and do that too. So it makes it very easy to kind of test some of these things out as you're doing it, right? So I would, think about that as much as you can, see how far forward you can get it based on what you've done so far, so that you don't do a whole lot of work and then find out later on that that's not really going to work for you. So a little bit, going back and forth. And so that's just basically what I wanted to show you, some of these things around being able to do the text to columns bit, which is in the data section, this text to columns. It's another little nifty thing here I like, which is remove duplicates, if you see that, right? So I use that here. So it's in the wish list. Okay. This is the wish list. Yeah. So here's the external data, right? If we looked at, it's time to take a look at how many of these census tables are we actually need, and you can see they're repeated here. So if I copy that and I go over to a new column, put that in there. If I use this little remove duplicates thing and have this column, right, then it's going to get rid of all the 38 duplicate values, keep the 14. So it's telling me there's 14 census tables that we're going to be needing to look at, and that's what I put into this little table over here and just looked at what that is. This is the one that we did, which is age. These are the other ones that are there, right? These census tables. So there's only about 12 of them that we need to do, and so there's really not that many that we can get through all of these things. So what I'd like to see is from this, I'd like to kind of get a set of tables that look like this for each one of those things that we're looking at, right? And then from this, we'll start making the visualizations. Okay. All right, guys. All right, carry on. If there's any other stuff like with Excel or whatnot that you can use some tips on, let me know. I guess specifically if you find that you're doing something that's really tedious, that's taking you a lot of time, right? There may well be some shortcuts to do that. And the other thing I should say is that Excel is pretty powerful. You can program it. There's Visual Basic behind it. That's the stuff that I don't really know that well, right? So all these things that I'm doing, right, you can see that it's going to have to be repeated a couple of times. So if you do it like once or twice and it's easier for you to program it in to do it programmatically, then go ahead and do that. And if there's and if you do that, then come back and teach me how to do it, because I'd love to learn it. But I'm doing it in a fairly sort of manual way, as you can see. I've gotten fairly fast at it just because I know the shortcuts and all that. And so for me, when I'm just doing it kind of one-off, it's kind of easier for me just to do it in my little manual way. But if you do know a quicker way to do it in a more programmatic fashion, definitely do it that way. You don't have to do it my way at all. And if you do find a fast way to do it, come share it and then teach me so I can learn something new and save my time as well. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, everybody. I guess it's late for you over there, so have a good night. And if there's anything else that we need to go over, just let me know, or pop me a note on the group meet. And look forward to having all our team meetings this week.